Welcome you to Let's Build Jurassic Park Part 2. In this episode we're going to focus on this incredible Velociraptor hatchery, which I've tried to keep as realistic to the films as possible. So, let's begin. Here we have this open bit of forest that I've dug way into the tree line and dug out and smoothed off and started to design this Velociraptor hatchery. And as you can see, we're starting off with the very basic shapes here, building up those main walls and slowly just getting a feel for the shape and size that I want to build it. As I just construct the walkways here, I'm sorry for a bit of this footage. If this footage has this weird bit of lag in it, I'm not sure why this is. It must have been something that was wrong with the as I was recording, but because of the fact that I've built it now, it's way too late for me to go back and re-record, so you might just have to bear with those tiny little lag spikes ever so often, but I'm not sure what they're actually there for. But as you can see, my design style has not changed. If you look back towards my first episode in which we built the great big gate, which was the entrance to the actual safari ride, you can see that I've kind of gone for the very similar materials, and this is in a similar respect to the way I do my castle series. My castle series was actually kind of a good ground to get used to building these Let's Builds, because within the castle you expect that sense of continuity and style throughout, so you can tell each area of the castle belongs to the same castle. It doesn't look like a mismatch of styles, and that kind of idea, that philosophy kind of is incredibly relevant naturally now within this Jurassic Park series, ensuring that even though the colours and some kind of schemes might be a little bit different from that of the films, you can still see that strong bearing, that strong kind of hinging that kind of relates it all together and ensures that this whole series looks as if it will be one cohesive park by the end, which is something I'm kind of aspiring towards. I would like this place, once it's finished, to look as if you could walk from this hatchery through the gate and to any other areas of the park. So as you see, I'm just building up now the entrance to this hatchery. Now this hatchery is quite a key scene in the films. It's when we first get our kind of own interpretation of the Velociraptors, because we don't see them. It's that scene you see the cow get lowered into the trees and you hear the Velociraptors slaughter it. So it's quite a key scene. It added, as a child back all those years ago, it added that sense of fear, that dread to the Velociraptors, and that's kind of what you expect. So that's kind of what I've tried to replicate within my own hatchery by making it look all overgrown within the woods, hidden away, very industrial, very well protected, but also very dangerous. So I did a big skip there in that building of the gate style, because this is the first time I've kind of built this kind of modern style. It's kind of been quite a learning curve for me, and sometimes because of this learning curve I'll be building stuff and it just simply won't work, and then I'll sit there and I'll redesign it, I'll change it, I'll destroy it, I'll redesign it, I'll change it, I'll destroy it, and it's kind of a repetitive process which doesn't translate very well into footage. So sometimes I do have to skip these development stages just because the footage is so mismatched it just doesn't really work. So building up the gate here, and again using those different styles, those different materials to keep that continuity, and I've become quite reliant in this series on stone walls. As you can see, I've used them over the main gate there to add that sense of depth and detail to the gate itself, and I'm actually decided, you see, I like this style a little bit for the gate, however I still feel it didn't work on the inside here. It looked a bit too flat, a little bit too simple. So as we go back over here and repair any damage I do when I've been obviously redeveloping it, I add in these stone walls actually to the center of the gate, because it adds in just that extra bit of depth and detail. Because of the way they're shaped, it adds a nice amount of shadow, and shadow is incredibly important within these shaders because it adds that detail. So here we go, adding in the stone walls there. It just makes them look a bit more, I don't know what the word is I'm trying to look for to describe them, you know, that little bit more industrial, that little bit more usable in the way that they look. So as you see, we zoom out here and then we've got the gate finished, and I was happy with this style. I was incredibly happy with the walkway we have around it, and before creating this I had a strong look into the blueprints of like kind of what people have created around Jurassic Park, just to make sure I got like a very good representation of size and scale when building this, because I feel despite Minecraft sometimes limiting the amount of detail you can add, keeping stuff to scale is one of the best ways of ensuring it actually looks like what you expect from the film, because as human beings we have an incredibly good concept of understanding scale and size, so trying to keep something as accurate as possible was incredibly important to me. So I'm just building up these styles, using these redstone torches a lot through this build, because I feel they add that sense of electricity. This is obviously an electrified fence, so simply having a iron fence there didn't really do it for me, but then finishing it off with those torches I felt worked incredibly well, just to keep that idea of that this is an electrified fence, it's dangerous, and it's that whole concept of this being a very modern, very minimalist place. So now, obviously I've looked back towards those blueprints and seen that on each corner is a stairwell. Now in reality the stairwell is actually on a diagonal. It doesn't come out like parallel with the hatchery. It actually comes out diagonally at each corner, but again, due to Minecraft's limitations, I've had to take my own adaptations into account. And again, as I said in the first episode, Jurassic Park is a book, so I never feel too guilty about changing it that much because of it being a book. I feel you could take your own creative interpretations and place them where you feel they're needed to kind of build around this idea of the blocky limitations of Minecraft. So just building up this style, and I feel overall I'm incredibly happy with this style of like build. I feel like I've managed to sort of perfect that use of minimalism of the stone with the detail you'd expect. So now we work on the Hatchery Watchtower, and this was a huge amount of trouble. This caused me so much trouble that I really struggled to build this. I've built so many towers in my castle series that I really struggled on building one that was very minimal and sleek and modern. So I built this big bulky tower, and I'm skipping through this because in a moment I'm going to have to landslide it and completely demolish it, because as you can see I'm building up, I'm trying my very best to keep that style, to keep that scale, and overall create this hatchery tower that you expect from the films. However, when you zoom out, I feel it just looks too bulky, it looks too big, so I go inside and try and put a roof on it instead. This will obviously hopefully make it a lot better. Once it's got a roof on, it'll look like it did from the film. Or so I thought. So I add in the cobblestone like pillars, again keeping that sense of continuity. Then I add in a roof, kind of vary the size of the roof, and as you can see it works okay. So I build the wall in. However, I think here it looks abysmal. I do not like this style whatsoever. So I went away and came back, and in a similar way to the gate, I put in my own design. So I think that design I've put in there works much better, and it adds in that sense of style and continuity from the rest of the build. And finally I add in the trees and vegetation inside the enclosure and around it to give it that overgrown style, those tiny little details in the end. And this actually brings us to the end of the episode. Here is that incredible Velociraptor hatchery hidden away within the tropical jungle, with roads leading off to the rest of the park, which I'll build at a later date. But here we have it, the finished gate, the finished hatchery. You can walk up and see inside the Velociraptor enclosure where that cow met its maker. So guys, thank you very